Hi, everybody. I have an old 7200 disk with 500 gigabytes and it has bads. Let's run Victoria and see how bad it is. Blocks of 2 megabytes, 41 bad blocks, and there are 116 slow blocks, orange and green. It turns out a little more than 300 megabytes of bad space. A small part of it was repaired, and now you can see the location of bad sectors. If you describe how it looks, there is a bad block, around it orange and a little green, everything else is gray, good space. It would seem, take it and just cut off this place, but we have bads in 45th gigabyte, in the 60s and then in the 370s. Even if I just cut off the beginning and end of the disk, I have about 300 gigs of space left. Is it that 40% of the space is removed? I am not satisfied with this situation, so I decided to split it into a large number of clean volumes, although small in size. We have a 45th GB bad, we will make the first volume from the 1st to 44th GB. We turn the space from 44th to 46th gigs into a second volume and remember what bad things are there. The next bad we have on 63rd GB, so the space from 46th to 62nd GB will be the third volume on the disk, but the second volume without bad. Windows asks you to enter the disk size in megabytes, so multiply the number of gigs by 1024. As a result, we received 9 volumes. In basic disk mode, you can't merge good volumes, but in dynamic disk mode, you can. Turning the disk into a dynamic one and connecting the good volumes with the good ones, and the bad ones with the bad ones, we get 450 gigs of usable space. The remaining 16 gigs can be used as the trash or just delete this volume and forget about its existence. The speed of this disk was around 100 and 120 meters per second, and I thought this. I have another WD Blue for 500 gigs, a laptop taken from the laptop itself, 5400. It has about the same speed, why don't we make it a RAID 0? Info for reference. RAID 0 is when two disks work together, that is, data is written and read on both disks simultaneously. In theory, you can get read and write speeds equal to the slowest disk in the RAID, but multiplied by 2. I moved the disks to Athlon, well, my Athlon 840L and FM2+, you can see how it drags games here and here, and the motherboard refused to work with the bad disk. You can't do anything with it either through disk management or the command line. It does not become a hardware RAID, Windows cannot be installed on it. And I would have thought that the disk was over if I hadn't put it in China motherboard before. It works well with bad disk, it accepts it for what it is, in the style of no matter how many bad things you have, as long as you spin, you live. In short, I put both disks in my main computer, it turned out to be such a sandwich. And I thought, why should we do a hardware RAID if Windows is still not put on it? Let's make a program 1. To do this, in disk management, delete all the volumes on them and then create a striped volume, select both disks and click OK. And then a long wait. The whole process took about 4 hours. Here are the disk speeds before the RAID was created. On the top, bad disk 7200, WD BLUE AAKS. Bottom -2.5 5400 WD BLUE LPCX. And here are the results of our RAID from these disks. I honestly expected about 180-200 to read. Let's compare it in detail. When working with 1 megabyte files, the speed increases twice relative to the disk, which was slower by the corresponding indicator. But in addition to recording with a QN1, it turns out that the laptop hard has slightly tightened the bad one. As for 4 kilobyte files, the situation is as follows, with 16 threads and a queue of 32, the speed also doubles, but with 1 thread and a queue of 1, the indicators are averaged. What does it all mean? For working with large files, with bin files of game installers and with videos, for example, RAID 0, an effective thing. For editing videos, this speed can be useful. In Windows and in games, the result will differ slightly due to the fact that they have a lot of kilobyte files. Here the cheapest SSD, for example, is my King spec on 128 gigs, will be incomparably better than RAID from any number of any hard drives. But without a test and games, it's all an empty bazaar. Let's put 3 games with the longest download from the railway and compare it with my almost new WD BLUE AAKS on a terabyte. Here are its speeds. Then the numbers will tell everything for me.